On everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's that time of week again, everybody's favorite segment, the power rankings. Guys, it's Sunday morning. Normally I do this Sunday afternoon after all the games on Sunday, but my wife is having a graduation today, so I won't be able to watch the games. I won't be around until late this evening, so I wanted to get this out on time, so it is going to be missing the Sunday games in this power rankings. I kind of looked at it, doesn't look like it's making a big difference, so I want to go ahead and do it anyway. One game short shouldn't be a big deal on the week. So guys, if you guys like this video, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are almost at 1,000. If I do get 50 likes on this video in the first couple of days, I will do a bonus video, and I have a good plan for it. So please smash that like button. We're going to hit 50. It'll be a big improvement. We might even hit 1,000 subs in the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing a hat giveaway, so make sure you're part of the team for that. Now, 30 teams, we're going to go through it pretty quickly. Number 30, we know who this is going to be. It's the Chicago White Sox. They started the week getting smashed by the Minnesota Twins, 0-4, and really, the Twins have had a pretty rough season, so to go against the team that's doing pretty much the second worst in this division and going 0-4, pretty devastating. Somehow the Tampa Bay Rays gifted them a couple of wins over the weekend here, going 2-0, so didn't really help them move up the rankings. We all know they're probably the worst team, right? But it will affect the Rays when we do get to them. Number 29, I got the Miami Marlins, 0-3 against Atlanta, 0-2 against Washington. So this did drop them one spot, and to be swept by your own division this week. I know the Marlins are just getting devastated with injuries, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't know how it's going to look forward for this team. One thing for sure is if you're in the bottom two for majority of the season, it seems that maybe next year, the year forward, you start to be up here again. Seems to be the pattern that we see for these teams. But right now, it's not looking good for either of these teams. Next up, Colorado Rockies. Not too much going for them. They only had one game so far this weekend, 0-1 against Houston. Houston's still on one of those teams that doesn't look good, but Blanco, who did pitch for Houston, we'll talk about that in a second. But they did go 2-2 against the Padres, so making some progress. The division outside of the Dodgers does somewhat seem up for grabs in the future, so Colorado does seem like a team that is going to make some progress this season. I don't know if they're going to be, maybe they'll be the bottom row all season, but overall, I do think we're going to start to see Colorado start to move up the power rankings. Maybe next year we'll see them in the middle of the pack, but Colorado is one of those teams that has been down here for a number of years, it feels like. But yeah, number 27, I think this might be an all-time low for the Angels in the 5 years we've been doing this, but I've been wrong about them for so many years, but right now it seems like this is pretty much it. Trout, on one hand, has been having a pretty good season with home runs, but his average hasn't really been much. His OPS hasn't been much, and he's been like the one shining part of the Angels, and that's not saying much with how they're doing. They went 1-2 against Baltimore, 0-2 over the weekend against Minnesota so far, and it's just going to be a long season for the Angels. We don't see them in the playoffs. We don't really think they can compete in this division as a whole, and they probably are the worst team in this division now. Next up, we have the Washington Nationals, 0-3 against the Dodgers. So just a little bit of rebound. I think they did all right against the Dodgers in the series before, but they got put in their place a little bit this time around. Beaten Marlins, that really boosted them up here. Couple games there. They do have a couple more games against the Marlins. They go for a 4 sweep. It would be pretty interesting, but right now, 26. They're a team that's on the up and up. They've kind of treaded water here for now, and a lot of it has to do with the teams ahead of them having more potential, in my opinion, but those teams' potential is starting to run out because we've got other teams like number 25, the Oakland A's, starting to make some noise. The A's were a team that has been atrocious for so long, but 2-2 against the Yankees early in the week, and so far 1-1 over the weekend here against the Baltimore Orioles, two teams that are on destined playoff, going 500. Got to be a little excited. I've talked about it a couple weeks in a row. The A's seem to be coming out of their way, and they are a team that you got to compete against because they do have some spots on their roster. Number 24, the furthest falling team of the week, we have the Tampa Bay Rays. Losing 2 games to Chicago really painted a picture for me that this team isn't really all it's been cracked up to be the past number of years. It's a little dangerous. It's early. I punished them a lot, but going 1-2 against Detroit, we've talked about it the past couple of weeks. This middle segment, if you have a struggling week or two, you're going to fall because the middling segment is really, really tight right now. And at this point, Tampa Bay, I don't know how they're going to hold up against the rest. Whereas 23, I do have Houston. They've had one of the worst starts of all of the league, right? But I do think overall they're better than Tampa Bay. They have pitching. Valdez is coming back pitching today. That could be impactful. Overall, out of record-wise, Houston's been pretty bad. They haven't had a bullpen that's performed whatsoever, and they need to show me something now to start moving up. I don't know if they can go lower, but sure they can, because we got two teams down here that are showing that they're capable of ready to get out of that bottom row. Number 22, moving up a couple of spots. I'm not going to buy too much into it. It was a 6-0 week for the Twins, sweeping the White Sox 4-0, 2-0 so far this weekend against the Angels, but we're talking about two of the bottom teams. They have to do that in this division that they're in. The teams ahead of them continue to win as well, so if they fall too far behind, it's going to be dangerous, but they do need to start working their way up, and they're capable, and I did predict them to win the division, but right now, I don't know. Against the teams ahead of them, I do think they are worse. Number 21, dropping more spots than last week, 1-2 against San Fran, so far 0-2 against St. Louis. After a 10-game stretch there, the Mets were pretty good looking. They kind of fell back into their way against teams, in my opinion, that if you're going to be in the conversation for playoffs, you got to win those series, and they didn't. Overall, the depth is a little concerning, or I should say a lot concerning for the Mets for me. I don't know if they really have what it takes to win and get into the playoffs. So right now, they're kind of on the outside looking into my books. We'll see. This next week is going to be pretty important for them to whether or not they can kind of start moving back, or if this is really more solidified where they are. Number 20, and a little bit of a surprising week, in my opinion. 2-1 against Arizona, 2-0 against the Mets. So 4-1 week since Sonny Gray has come back, and this pitching's been all right, and the offense has kind of come alive for the Cardinals. They've been one of the teams that has shown a little bit more consistency than the teams that are behind them in this power ranking. So I want to give them some credit. Do I think they're capable? Not quite sure yet, but this division in the Central is going to be deadlocked all season long. Right now, I do think they are the weakest team, but when they start playing their division, we're going to start seeing what they're really about. They're very capable of moving up this board. Number 19, moving up a few spots. We got San Francisco. A nice series win against the Mets early in the week. They're playing the Pirates this weekend. Pirates traveling to the West Coast. They're 1-1 so far. So this game tonight was probably one of the more pivotal games in what I would do with the power rankings. But right now, I think San Fran, they're a little bit behind. They're ahead of Colorado by quite a lot in my books. But they still got some work to do because we know the Dodgers are dominating this division. But San Francisco always seems to be that team that competes day in, day out, year after year. So I'm not going to count them out just yet. They have moved up the road, and I'm going to keep my eyes on them for this week, especially to see what they're all about. Next up, one of the fallingest falls that we've had in recent memory is the Diamondbacks, and it was topped off this week with Zach Gallen leaving that game yesterday. Really rough season for them so far. It's kind of interesting in how the seasons have gone. Last year, you would think, based on their analytics, that they would have been worse than their record. And this year, it's the complete opposite. Their analytics are showing that they should be better than their record. It's just not coming together. And maybe the Diamondbacks were a little bit of a fluke last year, and they're coming back down to earth this year. But their rotation should be doing better. Their offense has shown glimpses of just being absolutely dominant. It's just not coming together. And right now, that Gallen injury is scary because we already have Morel Kelly as well down. So they're probably in free fall mode. We could see them fall even farther in these coming weeks. Next up, their division rival, the San Diego Padres. Not a great week. The Padres just aren't putting anything together, and they're probably on their way down to this row down. It's just one series away from San Fran and these teams that are right on their tail. This is really tight in the National League between these five teams. And San Diego, they split a series early in the week, sure, against Colorado. Not great, not what you want to do if you want to be in this fight. And then 0-2 against a top team like Philly, not good. So San Diego kind of holding on for dear life, want to maintain in the fight, but we might see a new team next week. Number 16, a team that just cannot seem to figure out. This Toronto Blue Jays is up, down, all around. They start the season atrocious, then they win 5 series in a row, and then this week they play Kansas City, they win the first game, they're about to win the second game, and they blow that one, and then the fourth game, they get a rain delay situation that ends in a loss, so they go 1-3 against them, and then the Dodgers come to town, and they're getting smashed by the Dodgers. Toronto, hard to figure out. The pitching has been so far the only thing holding them up, and it kind of fell apart against the Dodgers here, and the offense is just not there. Vladdy's having an awful season. Bo is not there. Springer is not there. The top of their lineup, all batting below 250. If they don't figure this out, the Jays are going to fall down even lower, and their shot at a playoff. This division is super tough. They're not going to be able to figure it out. Number 15, moving on up. I keep moving on up slowly but surely. They don't have any weeks that just blow me away, but they beat Tampa Bay early in the week. Tampa Bay really got beat down this week, so it didn't move them up too much. They're splitting the series right now with Kansas City. This is probably the other game I was really interested in seeing today that might have impacted this Detroit a little bit even more if we saw something good. We see Skubal going to the mound today. He's been great for them, so if they can pull off a win here and beat their division rival, I think it would have boosted them up a little bit here, maybe a couple more spots. But Detroit, they've kind of been a train. They've been slow and steady moving up the board, and really there's nothing wrong with that. If that you slow and steady move up the board all season long and you end up in the top row by the end, like, you're a World Series contender. So right now Detroit, middle of the pack, but they're trending in the right direction. If you're a Tigers fan, you got to be excited. Number 14, they've rebounded quite well since the beginning of the season. 2-1 to start the week against Texas, which World Series champs, division rival. They're going to be competing all season long, probably these two teams for that top spot. So that's pretty great for them. Number 14, they go 2-0 so far this, or 2-0 so far this weekend against Arizona. So one of those teams that they're beating down. But that's what you got to do. If you want to move up this board, you got to beat the teams down while they're down. And right now, Arizona is down. So Seattle taking care of business, moving up past teams that they struggled with earlier in the season, like the Jays. So trending in the right direction as well. Number 13, a team that is just all over the place this season, and 500 so far this week, 2-2 against Milwaukee. Really blew that last game against Milwaukee too. Game 4, they were up big and then they blew it, so they could have had a 3-1 series lead there. Pittsburgh just doesn't seem to close it out. The season, the month, the week, they just don't seem to do it. 1-1 against San Fran. Pittsburgh is better than they've ever been in the past few years. But for me, they're kind of holding on. I don't know if it's possible for them to go up too much. They had maybe 2 weeks ago, where they just got smashed and then got no wins. But overall, I think the depth in there is there. They just can't seem to put it together. McCutchen at the top of the order has been a little iffy. They have some guys like Brian Reynolds, who's been a monster, but overall, there's just been some inconsistency that I can't put my finger on. They're really holding on to number 13 by the skin of their teeth. I guess the thing that put it ahead for me was I think their division is a little bit more open for the taking for them than anyone else. Number 12, moving up the board, probably the most, I think, this week out of anyone, is the Boston Red Sox. And I'm finally starting to believe that this team is going to compete in this division. Sure, they lose to Cleveland 1-2, but they put up their runs. The offense is definitely there for Boston, which I can't say is the same for a lot of these teams below them. The offense is there. The pitching, of course, has been somewhat of a concern, going 1-1 so far this weekend against the Cubs. They did shut out the Cubs yesterday and put up double-digit runs, so that was a huge rebound after the Friday night game where they lost. They've competed well. They're playing top 10 teams this week, and they've competed all season long. I've had no reason really to hold them low. They've been one of those teams, as well as Detroit, moving up the board. And in the AL East, they are no longer the worst team in my books. They are number 3, and it's rightfully so. I'm expecting them to beat the Jays pretty badly when they finally meet. Number 11, I got the Cincinnati Reds. And guys, the Reds have been one of those teams that been pretty consistent this season. 2-2 against Philly, 1-1 against Texas. Sure, it's a 500 week, but it's against 2 top 10 teams, 2 teams that went all the way last year into the Final Four, right? So Cincinnati, those young guys are starting to perform. Their pitching has been a little inconsistent at times, but it's getting the job done, and they're right there in the hunt of things. I would think overall, when they match up against any team below them, they're going to be the favorite, so that's a big part of why they're number 11. Number 10, still holding on to this team. I still think they are very capable, but I do got to move them down a little bit because they just aren't putting the wins together. 1-2 against Seattle, 1-1 so far against Cincinnati. Sure, if you're a Power Rankings fan, you would know that this rubber match today, if you can bank it, if Cincinnati wins, they would have been 10, etc., etc. But Texas, World Series champs. We do know what they're capable of. The pitching has, of course, been really iffy because a lot of the injuries are really hurting them right now. They are going to get some guys back throughout the season. I do think they're a top 10 contender, and I do personally think they're going to win this division still. But, of course, week after week, if they can't pull it together, they're kind of the opposite of Detroit, where they're slowly been going down the board, right? So we got to keep an eye on them. They keep playing at this 500 baseball. You're not going to be a top 10 team playing 500. Number 9, moving on up, we got the Kansas City Royals. It's been a good week for them. They really demonstrated to me that this pitching core is going to get it done. They got it done against the Blue Jays, 3-1. They got a nice split so far against Detroit. If they can come out with a big offensive performance with Bobby Witt Jr., Perez, all these guys in their lineup that have been delivering, if they can get to Scooble today, they are rightfully numbered top 10, could even move up a couple more spots. But this Central Division is starting to be the dangerous division, in my opinion, in this AL. They are pretty strong, 1 through 4. The Twins are on the verge of being strong. Sure, I think when you start looking at these middle packs, it's really tight, but sure, they have the White Sox. They're all going to beat up on them. We're going to see a couple of teams, I think 2 at least teams come out of this division into the playoffs, and a lot of that might have to do with beating up on the White Sox. Next up, we got the Cleveland Guardians, number 8. I know a lot of people have them even higher. I'm not ready to do it. They're edging up, right? They're winning they beat Boston, a team that's now number 12. It's the best team they've beat all year in series. They've played 2 series now with Boston. It's really the only team they've gone up that's really tested them. They're playing Atlanta this weekend, and so far it's 1-1. They did steal the game yesterday, so that was a big part of where I'm putting them now. If they win today, sure, maybe it's time to start believing in this Guardian team. And I know I haven't believed too much, but number 8, it's pretty solid if you think about it, being top 8. I want to see more. I do want to see them play some of these AL East teams. I want to see them go up against the Yankees. I want to see them go up against the good pitching of the Blue Jays. I want to see them play some of these top teams, and then we can really know if they belong there. Number 7, got the Milwaukee Brewers, 2-2 against Pittsburgh, 1-1 so far against the Yankees. They really got beat around by the Yankees yesterday. So the offense, that's starting to be the depth of the pitching has been a little bit of concern for me. They don't feel like the team that can go on a huge winning streak to me. But overall, I think they are a strong team. And in the best of 3, they have to be favored against most teams in the league, especially if they got the top of their team going. Churio, he sits out here and there. He bats 9th. He bats 1st. He's been that rookie. He's been pretty good for them, and if he just keeps getting stronger throughout the season, I do expect him to be a big part of this Brewers team this season. Number 6, feels kind of dirty, making their debut in the top row after getting shelled by Boston yesterday, but overall the season has been pretty good for the Cubs. The week was great for them. They swept the Houston Astros early in the week, 3-0. They were on their way to a 4-0 week, and then they got shelled yesterday, so not too much today's big game, of course, being a big part of that. Shoto has just been amazing for this, so that pitching has been huge. Hendricks on the other side, who used to be the star, is starting to edge his way out. We're starting to see the new era of the Chicago Cubs, and so far it's looking pretty good. They don't have Rizzo and Bryan, all those guys anymore. It's new era, and it's starting to look pretty good. They are, in my opinion, the favorite for the division. Number 5, I got the Philadelphia Phillies. Arguably, possibly could be higher, 2-2 against Cincy so far, 2-0 on the weekend against the Padres. Wheeler seems to be coming into his way. Nola seems to be coming into his way. The offense has never really been a problem for the Phillies. I think arguably could be a top 3 team right now. I just didn't think going 2-2 against Cincinnati. There's been other times where it's been a little bit 500. I just want to see a little bit more consistency for them if they're going to do it, because I think these top 3-4 teams are slightly stronger. If they didn't have Nola or Wheeler in the series against these top 4 teams, I think they would be in trouble. So next up, I do have the Orioles, and the Orioles continue to win. It's never been like an amazing sweep of a week, but they keep winning. They beat the Angels 2-1. Lose one, not a sweep, but they still managed to win the series. So far, it's 1-1 against Oakland. I do think they'll probably come out and win the series, right? Sure, they might lose too, but like I talked about when I talked about the A's are the strongest team that's like the up and coming. They are no slouch, and I think that Orioles are finding that too. Jackson Holiday got sent back down to the minors. We hope he can figure it out because we all know he's a big part of the future of this franchise. And right now, the fact that they can send this future, he struggled. What do you go, 1 for like 32 at the plate, something like that, and they still won. So now they got a guy in there that's not going to bat that badly, you would hope. So you expect them to keep on going. Number 3, I got the New York Yankees. Had some people say that they have some holes in them. They shouldn't be so high. While I agree that they do definitely have holes in this team, Judge has not performed whatsoever what we were expected to, especially when he has Soto in front of him. You would expect a little bit more there. But guys, like, every team so far that we've talked about has holes in them. Like, we could point fingers at every part, but overall, the Yankees offense has been absolutely crushing it. The bullpen is always going to be something dangerous to worry about. And let's be honest, some of their starters, they bring in Carlos Rondon, he's been pretty electric for this team. And overall, I think of all the teams that you would expect to improve even further at the trade deadline, when it comes time, they're going to be in the playoff hunt for sure. I think that's without a doubt going to happen. And at the trade deadline, the Yankees are not going to be afraid. They're going to be picking up bullpen. They're going to probably add a strong starter. They might even add a sick bat off the bench. So when you look at it in that way too, going forward, this Yankees team is lethal and very much in the conversation for World Series. And I don't think there's any debate about that. The big awesome thing that we're waiting for this week coming up, these two teams facing off to start the week. I'm sure everyone that's a baseball fan is going to be watching that. Number 2, I got the LA Dodgers. And I got some heat last week for having them number 3. They should be lower. And to me, that's just ludicrous. This team is on paper amazing. They haven't performed up to it, but if you watch this offense, Mookie Betts is like MVP caliber, amazing, stealing bases, getting on base. He is going to, by far, in my opinion, run away with this MVP as long as no injuries happen or anything like that. This guy has been electric. The pitching, maybe a little bit inconsistent at times. We still got Yamamoto trying to figure it out, but he's had a couple of good outings now, and I'm sure he's going to come around. Ohtani, he's not pitching, but he's leading the league in fantasy-wise. And, like, guys, they got Walker Buehler on his way back. They got freaking Glass now. Like, guys, this team possibly should be number 1. Record doesn't say that, but they're going to do it. You see it in the Blue Jays series. They're absolutely destroying them, and it's not even close. They're just having their way with them, and I figure they're going to do that a lot with American League teams, honestly. Number 1, still up there, and like, I have no reason to dethrone the Braves so far. 3-0 to start the week against their own Marlins division. 1-1 over the weekend so far against Cleveland. But guys, the Braves have just been consistent year after year after year. I think if we looked at the past 3 years, they have the best record by far. The pitching is a little concerning. You see Spencer Strider go down that, but it always seems to be next guy up. Chris Sale has had a dominant season so far. His strikeouts have been great. His sweeping slider seems to be there, the thing that's got him the K's, and we just saw a sick outing from him this week. Right now, the Braves are the team to beat, but like, we got 2 National League teams up there. We got 2 pretty solid American League teams, and we got a team that is number 5 that's chasing the Braves. It's just going to be a tight race, and this is going to be a fun race. When we start looking at the overall playoff race, who's going to fight, like, we can still go down to here probably. Number 24 is still in the playoff race. So guys, overall, this is what I have for the power rankings going into this week. Like I said, normally I do this at the end of the Sunday games, but had to do it early. Congratulations to Mrs. Hart, who is graduating today. Awesome news. And let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe for more. We'll see you guys for that next video.